Well, we're now joined by Paul Finebaum. Paul, I'm really excited you're making the time for us. Of course, you're going to be in Athens this week. The SEC Nation set's going to be here. And I've said I'm a little biased, but I like the SEC Nation set. I like the way you guys move around the league every week. I feel like you're very in tune to the different campuses. Let me ask you, before we get started on the Georgia-Texas breakdown, what do you like about Athens? What do you think sets it apart from some of the other SEC venues that you've traveled around to?
To me, it's the vibe of the city, forgetting the campus, which I'll get to in a minute, but it is, so many of these cities are big. You've lived in them. Some of them are small. But Athens it's always electric, especially on a Friday night. We were there 6-7 weeks ago, and pretty memorable setup. And, the campus to me has always been among my favorites. We're not allowed to give favorites here at the SEC Network. We don't want to tick anybody off. But I think you know how I feel about Athens and about that program. It's easy to rave about everything in every aspect, but even though we go someplace different almost every week, and even though Georgia has been at the top of the heap for a long time, we're always made to feel like it's the first time we've ever been there.
Yeah, some unprecedented history Kirby Smart making here at Georgia, really the finest era of Georgia football ever. And, this game was on the schedule. We saw it in the offseason. It was one of the most anticipated of the year. And yet, Paul, I got to tell you, I was wrong about the storyline. I mean, I thought we would have a Heisman Trophy contender, but I thought it would be Arch Manning. I was one of those people that just assumed with the pedigree and Steve Sarkisian's penchant for offense that they would be the explosive offense and Arch would be the guy. But I looked at the statistics head-to-head. Gunnar Stockton's been better in almost every single way, and I missed the boat on that. He's gotten so much better from that spring game and what we even heard and saw early in the fall. Your thoughts on the way the Gunnar Stockton, Arch Manning storylines have unfolded this season?
Well, I would like to sit here, Mike, and tell you I've been right about everything this year, but nobody has. I think it was maybe you or somebody that tweeted out earlier today I can't remember who it was, the preseason top 10. I mean, it's been obliterated. We all know that. And as far as Arch Manning, I had him winning the Heisman, and I had Gunnar Stockton selling insurance somewhere in Conyers, Georgia, with Mike Bobo. So I think I've got a lot to answer for. But that's part of what we do. We throw out opinions, and we don't just do it to be malicious. We put them out there based on what we think is our gut instincts, or sometimes more than that. But Gunnar Stockton has been an absolute star. We saw that going back to Knoxville in the Tennessee game, where I felt like he came of age, and he's done it so many times. And Mike Bobo, for all the criticism on the Finebaum show, has dialed up some really unique and creative plays this year. So here we are. Texas is the one limping. They're not so much limping, but they're in such a desperate situation where Georgia has a little bit of air and room to breathe. And I think as we walked out of that game 6-7 weeks ago against Alabama, you had to wonder, would Georgia be able to survive? And they have.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And you're right. Gunnar Stockton's story, it says a lot about Kirby Smart and the coaching, because what we're seeing now is not what we saw in the G-Day game. I mean, Kirby Smart basically said, this guy's got to make better decisions. I mean, he didn't look then like he looks now. The confidence, the way the other players have emerged. I mean, this is kind of a Kirby thing when you take a look at some of the other programs and all the talent they got through the portal. And some programs, the portal's worked out. Some programs, they haven't. We've seen a lot of fired coaches. Let me ask you, do you think we're done with the coach firings in the SEC for now? Is 4 enough? I mean, 25% of the league. I can't. And Mark Stoops suddenly bringing the Kentucky Wildcats to life with wins over Auburn and now Florida.
Yeah, and I think you just said it was Stoops. I mean, he was the one that was most vulnerable. Those feel like really big wins. When you look at the programs, they're really not in reality, but that's what Kentucky is right now. Any progress is a lot of progress there. I don't see anyone else going. I think the other one that was vulnerable was Brent Venables. Now, what happens with a loss Saturday and maybe another loss, but that doesn't even look very likely anymore, considering I think they have Missouri and LSU left. Those do not look like programs that can beat anyone right now.
Yeah, some struggles. So I was going to ask you about the upcoming games. Obviously, Oklahoma, Alabama, Georgia. To get back in the SEC championship game, they're going to need some help. They're going to need Alabama to lose twice. I don't think that's going to happen. Could A&M lose at Texas at the end of the year? Potentially, possible. But first things first, Kirby's going to talk about the controllables, and that is Saturday night. How do you see this game shaking out? Because when we look at the comparative opponents, Georgia's beaten everybody worse than Texas did that they've played. The Longhorns have a 4-game winning streak, and they had a bye week. Georgia coming off arguably their best game of the year. How do you see this game shaking out? Some of the keys.
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to be Bevo to be picking Texas to win right now. I'm not, and I sincerely doubt I will be Saturday morning, based on everything I know. I mean, Texas has done a nice job of surviving, but who exactly have they beaten during this stretch? They struggled to beat Vanderbilt. They've had they had a miracle at Mississippi State and Kentucky. To me, the Oklahoma game against Mateer, you can't really come away and say, wow, those were just dramatic victories. So I think everything favors Georgia, and having been with you over there in Starkville, that surprised me. I said on our show, Georgia better be careful. They come out slow like they do every week, and State can get some energy going. That never happened outside of the first drive, and it was really fun to watch. Georgia play loose and really without any fear or favor.
Yeah, really asserted themselves again. That was the best Georgia had executed all season long, and you saw Gunnar Stockton's growth, just the ability to step up in the pocket, avoid the sacks, avoid the interceptions against a Mississippi State team that's really given some game effort. They're really only 3 plays away from 8-1 going into that game, but they look like the old Mississippi State in that one. Paul, it looks like the new SEC to me, though, when we talk about depth and talent. And Eli Drinkwitz on the SEC teleconference last week, I asked him about this new committee. And I do like a lot of these members. I think we both had a lot of respect for Ivan Maisel, certainly Mark D'Antonio on that staff, one of the 3 coaches. And I said to Drink, hey, how do you like this staff? They're watching. He said, no. These coaches, they have certain things they look for. They have certain people they like. He's not sold on it. And then he pointed out schedule strength, which we were told the whole offseason would make all the difference in the world. And yet we see A&M with a much, much better schedule strength than Ohio State and Indiana, and yet those teams were ahead in the rankings. Now, the last week, Ohio State steamrolls a bad Purdue team, beats them by 24. Indiana survives Penn State, 3-6 Penn State on the road. A&M plows through a number 22 Missouri. Are we going to see a shakeup? Do you have any thoughts about how the playoff rankings will look, and how do you think they should look when they come out on Tuesday night?
Well, I agree with you on A&M, but I don't think we're going to see any dramatic change because, Mike, these people, no matter what they say, and they're not saying it, the commissioners are saying it, it still looks like the same old circus to me. They get in there and, they're all collegial and they're all friendly and they all think like a committee. And that's not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to think like a football mind should think, and who is the best team? Let's not get carried away with these records. And I'm thrilled that Indiana was able to come from behind against a flatline comatose team that fired its coach 4 weeks ago. In Happy Valley, what a tough place to win. Who hasn't won there lately? It was the player of the year in college football, and let's go ahead and give the Heisman to Mendoza because his receiver made an all-world catch, but that doesn't make me feel any better about Indiana. And every time I say this, everybody sitting around, the coffee shop in Bloomington, gets really upset. But I like to see Indiana play Georgia's schedule or Alabama's schedule and go through a gauntlet like these schools go through, and they couldn't do it. I'm going to say that right now. I don't think they could come close to doing it because nobody in the SEC really is able to do it. Right now, Alabama and Texas A&M have beaten the odds. Some of that is just a matter of fortune. But ultimately, you picked me Georgia's schedule last year, and I realize it's a little bit more manageable this year. You think Indiana could manage that?
Yeah, I don't, Paul. Listen, you've been the voice of the SEC for, I guess, some 40 years now, back to when I was reading you at the Birmingham Post-Herald and your Beacon days in Knoxville. You've been around the league. You've written books. You've been to all the venues. We're on the verge of a potential playoff expansion. If I'm making you the commissioner of college football, which I would very much like to do, by the way, that would be very entertaining. I think there'd be some very fun twists. What should we see? What should we do with the college football playoff? We know we're on the verge of some sort of expansion. We've heard 16 teams. We've heard different models. We've heard Drink, among others, talk about a potential play-in style playoff with more than 20 teams. What would you like to see out of this next contract?
Well, I think what we're about to see is more teams. I sat with Mark Keenum the other night in Starkville, and he said that we're probably not going to get it this year for next year, but we'll get it 4 more teams, a 16-team playoff. Now, I don't have a problem with a 16-team playoff. What I do have a problem with is giving the group of 5 or 4 or whatever they're called these days an automatic bid. I mean, they don't have any business being in this playoff, Mike. I watched the game Friday night. I'm impressed with Tulane and Memphis. They're both really fun teams to watch, but they are not on the same level as what we're seeing Saturday night.
Well, now, wait a minute. Memphis pulled one out against Arkansas earlier this year, Paul. To the point.
Don't make me say Arkansas is not on the same level either. But I mean, I think those are good stories, but I don't think they're, maybe with a 16, if you want to grandfather them in on a play-in game, I don't really care. But I'm glad we got away from where we were last year. But I'm just sick and tired of college football, being like the Congress or some other organization. Oh, we have to let them in. We don't have to let anybody in. The NFL doesn't let anybody into its tournament in January, and that's why it's one of the best things of the year when we get to the wild card and the divisional and then the championship games. But I also think another thing that is endangered is the SEC championship game. Mike, we sat there together last year, and it didn't feel like a normal SEC championship game. The Texas fans were fatigued because they'd been traveling all over the place, and they knew they had another game the next week or 2 weeks later. And I think if we add more, that game becomes devalued even more. I mean, let's say this year it is Texas A&M and Alabama. Let's say they both run the table. What's at stake? Well, a seeding is at stake. But if A&M were to lose to Alabama, I mean, how far are they going to drop? I mean,
is Georgia and Ole Miss better off not playing in that championship game? Is that almost a preferred?
100%. Well, listen, Georgia knows the experience of that game better than anyone, losing Carson Beck last year. And it's, one of these days I throw this up just for fodder at the end of the bar, but, if we keep going and we have 16 and you roll in there with nothing at stake, are you going to how are you going to start your quarterback? Are you going to let him play very long? What's the point?
Yeah, there's no doubt seedings. And to your point on Cinderella, now with NIL, the glass slipper's gone. We saw that in college basketball. Everybody says, where's Cinderella? They're playing for other teams, and that's what's happened to these smaller programs as well. So no real true Cinderella power anymore like there used to be because of NIL and transfer rule. Paul, I can't thank you enough. I look forward to seeing you here in Athens. The program is sensational. We really enjoy the SEC Nation and all the guests you bring on, and as well as all the SEC talent. We know Jordan Rogers and Laura Rutledge, and hopefully we'll get a little Tebow action. It'll be a lot of fun this weekend. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. Always great to be with you.
Appreciate it.